Was the Zodiac Killer actually a werewolf? Did she have any victims that we don't yet know about? Why did I say she when it's widely accepted that the perpetrator was a man? Stick around and you might find out the answers to these questions on this episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Solved! Welcome to the show, guys. It's another mysterious Thursday, the most mysterious day of the week. And I got to tell you, we have a doozy of a topic for you today, one that I honestly probably should have been done already, but whatever. As always, I am Chad Kimmons, PhD in solving unsolved mysteries, and with me today, filling in for Colt, is Raj Jawa, a friend of mine, and yes, that's his real name. Raj, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Raj Jawa. I'm an actor and a filmmaker. I've been doing that for about 10 years now, and I've always kind of been an enthusiast of kind of various mysterious topics. So I'm excited about being here today.
I'm yeah. I'm. You'll find that I have trouble talking sometimes.
Sure.
My mouth can't keep up with my brain. I'm excited to have you. I guess let me ask you this. How much do you know about the Zodiac Killer?
Not too much, actually. I've heard it in reference, especially with all the crime shows going on TV these days. But no, I don't think I've heard all that much about it, despite being from California, even.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just go ahead and dive right in here. For this one, we're going to be going back to the 1960s in Northern California, where a mysterious figure was targeting men and women between about 16 and 29 and murdering them to death for the most part. Now, we've talked about Jack the Ripper on the podcast before. That was with Colt, and how he, or I guess rather she, as we so expertly figured out, was one of the most famous serial killers in the history of everything. And I would say that this sick that we're talking about right here is probably a close second, maybe third behind Manson. But let's real quick, we're going to take a look at the killer's first known taste of murder. It's the night of December 20th, 1968. We're on Lake Herman Road, just outside or just inside the Benicia city limits. And high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were on their first date. Now, they had been going to attend a Christmas concert at Hogan High School, but they never made it. They went to a restaurant first, and then I would say about 10:15 p.m., David took Betty Lou Jensen, and they pulled into this gravel turnout known as Lover's Lane, just off of, I don't remember the road. Hold on. Man, I'm making a good first impression here.
No worries, you're fine.
Lake Herman Road.
Okay.
Did I say that already?
I think you might have.
I did. It is in my notes. It's in the first freaking sentence of this paragraph. Anyway, it's known as Lover's Lane. And shortly after 11 o'clock, their bodies were found by a Stella Borges who lived nearby. Now, forensic evidence at the time showed that another car had pulled in next to the couple, and an unknown assailant got out of the car, walked toward David and Betty Lou, and Betty Lou got out of the car first, but the killer shot David in the head as he was about halfway out of the car, and then turned and shot Jensen, Betty Lou, 5 times in the back as she was running away. Then he left. That's all we know about the first one. Jumping ahead here about 6 months, it's now just before midnight on July 4th, 1969. Darlene Farron and Michael Magyar were parked at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, about 4 miles from the first murder site. While they were in the car, again, a second car drove up alongside them, but he almost immediately drove away. They didn't think anything of it. It was another one of those, like, kind of Lover's Lane type things. So they just kind of, assumed that, they were coming, somebody was coming to make out, and figured that the spot had already been taken.
Sure.
10 minutes later, he comes back and parks behind them. Again, he got out of his car. He approached the car, this time with a flashlight and a 9mm Luger, and he shot at the couple 5 times. Now, he was walking away when he heard Magyar moaning and returned and shot them both 2 more times. And the only reason we even know as much information about this one as we do, like, what he was carrying and stuff, is that while Farron was pronounced dead at the hospital, Magyar survived, and he said that the attacker was a 5'8" white man with short, light brown curly hair, between 26 and 30, and weighing around 200 pounds. The next day at around 1 a.m., a man phoned the police department in Vallejo and took credit for the shootings, also claiming that he had killed Jensen and Faraday 6 months earlier. And the call was traced to a phone booth a few blocks from the police station, but they never, nobody was there. So already, within 6 months, this dude has killed 3, injured 1, and he's gotten away with it so far, mostly, I would say probably because, there wasn't a whole lot in the way of forensic science back then.
Sure, and for pretty brazen killings, that's crazy.
Oh yeah, anybody could have seen it. He just walked up and shot him, man.
That's insane.
Yeah, and Magyar wasn't the only one who would survive him, which it's crazy to me that 2 people, we'll get to that one later, but it's crazy that 2 people survived the dude and they still couldn't find him, and they almost had him later, which, again, we'll get to that here in a bit. I'm trying to kind of take it chronologically,
Sure.
Well, the next killings happened on September 27th, but between that time, there were some letters sent to newspapers. On August 1st, there were 3 letters they were almost identical, sent to Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner. In these letters, whoever sent them took credit for the killings, and every one of them had 1/3 of a 408 symbol cryptogram, which was supposed to contain the identity. And whoever sent them demanded that they be printed, or he would cruise around that weekend killing lone people until he had killed 12 people just over the weekend.
Jeez.
Yeah. This guy's just crazy. But one of the letters that he sent, I believe the one he sent to the Chronicle, was printed immediately. They were all eventually printed, but the murders that he said he was going to do didn't happen. And the Vallejo chief of police actually made a statement with the letter that was printed, telling the killer that he didn't believe he was actually the killer, and to prove it, he should send more letters, to prove that he was who he was. Well, he did just that, because on August 7th, another letter was sent to the Examiner with the header, "Dear Editor, this is the Zodiac speaking," which is the first time that he had named himself. It's the first time I see the Zodiac, the name Zodiac Killer. And it had included details of the murders that had not been released to the public. On August 8th, Donald and Betty Harden of Salinas, Kansas, cracked the cryptogram, and it basically contained a misspelled message where the killer was saying that he was collecting slaves for the afterlife or some shit. There was no name in it, so I don't know. It's just really weird. So before we get into the next murder and whatnot, what are you thinking here?
It's just an
let me get your impression.
Right, it's an insane story, and what is the connection to him calling himself the Zodiac? What was the reason for that? See,
I looked for that, and I don't know. I don't know if I just couldn't find it, or if maybe it was just a name that he came up with. There's a symbol associated with him, which is basically a cross with a circle drawn around it. That he starts using later, but actually in the next murder, I think. But yeah, it's not any Zodiac symbol.
Yeah, with the whole collecting of souls or bodies for the afterlife, it definitely sounds like he definitely has some kind of occult fixation or interest, at least.
Yeah, and he might also just be insane.
Well, true. No, absolutely. Or maybe they are talking to him. You never know. We're the crazy ones,
Yeah, he's actually made a pact with the, that might be, maybe he made a pact with Satan or something, and Satan,
These are his tasks. Like, yeah, I don't know.
This
is the day job for Satan, you know?
Like, he just, maybe he just didn't have the will to kill people, but he really wanted to, so he made a pact with Satan, and Satan's like, all right, I'll give you the will, but you're going to be doing this job for me, not for yourself. He's like, deal, I just want to murder some bitches.
Damn, that is a good symbiotic relationship.
So, getting back into the murders, well, the next murder. On September 27th, Pacific Union College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, they were picnicking at Lake Berryessa. Now, this was, I can't think and speak straight. This murder was different in that it happened during daylight. The other two happened in the middle of the night. As you'll see later, like he just keeps getting more and more brazen.
Interesting.
As time goes on, because like almost like he's trying to get caught, which again is, if you know anything about the psychology of serial killers, is something that is a common theme, is that they almost try to get caught because they want the recognition for what they did. But yeah, they were picnicking at Lake Berryessa, and a white man about 5'11" approached them wearing an executioner's hood with dark sunglasses over the eye holes, and had a bib that had that cross circle symbol on it that I was telling you about. And he had a gun. And he claimed to be an escaped convict from Michigan, and that he needed their car to escape to Mexico because his had overheated. Now he had strips of plastic, and he had Shepard tie up Hartnell first. And then he tied her up with them. And then he drew a knife and stabbed Hartnell 6 times and Shepard 10 times.
Jesus.
Which, the only reason that I can think that he might have stabbed him instead of shot him was that it was the middle of the day, and like, gunshots are going to draw people.
Right.
Whereas stabbing people won't. But then he went back up to the road, drew that little cross symbol on Hartnell's car, and wrote beneath it, Vallejo /10/2068 /7469 September 27th, 69, 6:30 /by knife. So, again, we know this is, you know, we're pretty sure it's the same guy, because he is claiming these other 2 murders as well by writing it on this car. And then around 8 p.m., the same man called Napa County Sheriff's Office from a payphone a few blocks from the police station again. So there we go again with the being super brazen, because he's always getting really close to the police station.
Right.
When he calls. When they got there, it was still off, the phone was off the hook, and they found a partial palm print or something, but they couldn't trace it to anybody. And he reported the murder, reported that he had committed it. And I guess there was a father and son that were fishing in a nearby cove and heard the victim screaming for help. And so they came to the rescue, and Hartnell survived, but Shepard slipped into a coma and died 2 days later. Now, what I find interesting about this is that this is now 2 cases where one survived and one did not, and in both cases it was the woman who did not survive.
That is interesting.
Like, I didn't see anything mentioned about this, but it just seems like maybe he has something against women. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Because, like, I guess in the other one, where the guy survived, they were both shot the same amount of times. But in this one, you know, he stabbed her 10 times versus the 6 that he stabbed the dude.
Very vindictive,
you know?
Yeah. Very, like, almost like personal. Interesting.
Yeah. And it's always couples that he's going after, at least for the time being, you know.
Right.
Which is also, I find, kind of interesting.
It is. You usually hear about the killers that I know of usually going after victims alone, you know, paying attention to their patterns, this and that. It's odd. It seems very different.
But yeah, so Hartnell survived, and Shepard slipped into a coma and died 2 days later. Now, 2 weeks later, on October 11th, 1969, a white male passenger entered the cab driven by Paul Stein at the intersection of Macy and Geary Streets, which is a block west from Union Square in San Francisco. And he requested to be taken to Washington and Maple in Presidio Heights. For unknown reasons, Stein drove 1 block past Maple to Cherry Street, and then the passenger shot Stein once in the head with a 9mm, took his wallet and car keys, and tore off a section of his bloodstained shirt. There were 3 teenagers across the street at about 10 o'clock who called the police like while the crime was in progress. Like they were watching the man wiped down the cab before he walked away towards Presidio Heights, about a block to the north. And about 2 blocks from the crime scene, patrol officer Don Falk and Eric Zelms were responding to the call, and they saw a white man walking along the sidewalk east on Jackson Street. And he was like going up the steps leading to the yard of one of the homes on the north side of the street. And basically, this was the guy. This was the Zodiac Killer. However, they left him alone because for some reason the dispatcher had said that it was a black man that had been involved in the crime. So they could have had the guy right then and there because he matched the description from or vaguely matched the description from the other murders. But since the dispatcher had said that it was a black person, they just kept going, left him alone.
Wow.
And as of today, there's still no explanation as to how the mix-up happened. You know, conspiracy theorists will tell you that the dispatcher was in on it, which is a load of bullshit.
That seems pretty far-fetched, absolutely.
That seems like this guy doesn't seem to do a whole lot of planning other than, sending letters. So
yeah,
I really doubt that
nothing seemed premeditated in what you told me. Yeah,
right. The only premeditation is that he's gonna murder somebody, but not who, where, when.
Right. Almost like a crime of opportunity in a way, but he looks for the opportunity.
Yeah, he creates the opportunity.
Right. Yeah. True.
Yeah. So they just kept going by, and the search ensued. No suspects were found. And this was the last official confirmed kill by the Zodiac Killer. And it was initially thought to be a routine cabbie killing, like a robbery that had just escalated. But on October 13th, 2 days later, the San Francisco Chronicle received a new letter from the Zodiac containing a piece of the bloody shirt and taking credit for the killing. And in the letter, he said that 2 officers had driven past him while he was walking away from the crime.
Wow. Which
means this is the same guy. And he specified it was in the area where the officers had seen him, SFPD investigated an estimated 2,500 suspects over a period of several years. But again, nothing ever came of it. They couldn't find anybody. Then on October 14th, the Chronicle got another letter, again with part of Paul Stein's shirt as proof. And in this letter, he threatened that he was going to blow up a bus of school children on a school bus full of school children.
Jeez.
Which is why I call him a sick aside from just normal murders. Normal murders? No, that's fine. You go after children, you are a sick
No, yeah, it's like he couldn't get enough by that point. It's crazy. That's nuts.
Yeah, and like I said, he just keeps getting more and more brazen. He's sending more and more letters. And, I was talking about BTK, and that's how he got caught, was he did all of his killings in the, I want to say late 80s and early 90s. And then he just went silent. And then in 2004, he started taunting the police again, and they were able to catch him.
It's interesting too how assured he wants the authorities to be that it's him by including the piece of fabric. He definitely has he wants there to be no doubt that it's him.
Yeah. We just, like I said, we just keep coming back to this theme that they want the recognition for what they did.
Right.
And, and what's crazy is that I, like others, I'm sure, have thought about how I would get away with murder if I wanted to commit murder.
Right.
And, that right didn't sound so sure. Me too, buddy. You're just silently dialing 911. But, I always think of something that would catch me. Even if I left my house in the middle of the night, pitch black, all dark clothing, and went and murdered somebody, somewhere someone will have seen me come out that window, no matter how careful I am, going, yeah, there was dude down the street came out of his window wearing all black clothing and then just slipped away into the night. And then they're going to come question me, and I'm going to be like, no, I didn't do it. And then they'll find evidence, and I'll go to prison.
Right. No, I think there's a lot to it, because even just the buying of the clothes and all that, the way I imagine to do it would be to kind of hide your identity, not have it sent to your own house. All these things are telltale signs, especially like, oh, I don't want hair evidence, so let me shave my head. But now everyone is like, why the hell did he shave his head? Like all of a sudden.
And, they say, what is it? Like 90% of all murders are committed by someone that you know.
Sure.
Whereas the other, I'm just throwing out arbitrary numbers here,
Sure.
but like maybe 50% of the other 10% are, robberies gone wrong or something.
Right.
And then that last 5% is stuff like this, serial killers who just kill for the thrill of it. And I think that's why so many serial killers get away with it for so long, is that they're not going after people they know. They're just killing random people because they love the thrill of killing.
Right. And then I think the authorities aren't equipped to kind of handle, and I mean, you've seen a lot of progress in these shows like Mindhunter, but all the same, it's like if there's nothing to go on and the typical crime telltale signs, then what do you do?
Which, I mean, forensic evidence is getting a lot better, but,
Absolutely.
I don't have a criminal record. Let me preface this by saying I'm not a murderer. I'd have no intent to murder anyone. I'm not going to murder anyone. However, I have no criminal database or no criminal record. My fingerprints aren't anywhere. No, that's not true. I would get caught almost immediately. I have a hazmat endorsement on my CDL. And so my fingerprints are in the federal database.
Sure.
So yeah, I would absolutely get caught. But if I didn't have my hazmat, there's no record of me anywhere. So, if I just decided to pull up to Joe Blow's house and break down the door and murder him and his wife and then go about my business, I have no connection to these people. How are they going to, I'm sure I would still get caught, but.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, now cameras and all this stuff have come out, everybody has a porch cam kind of for more package thieves, but I'm sure if there's a murder, it'll show up.
Yeah. Okay. We got way off topic here.
Sure.
And now I forgot where I was at again. Okay. So he threatened to kill a bunch of school children.
Yes.
Say that like it's nothing. It was just, another day. November 8th, he mailed another cryptogram, and this one was never decoded. And then November 9th, there was a 7-page letter stating that, like I said, 2 police stopped and spoke with him 3 minutes after he shot Stein. So, well, shit. I guess that those police officers actually stopped and talked to him then.
Wow.
Which makes it even more insane.
That is, wow.
This one, March 22nd, 1970, Kathleen Jones was driving from San Bernardino to Petaluma, I don't know how to pronounce it. She was 7 months pregnant. She had her 10-month-old daughter beside her, and there was a car behind her that was honking and flashing his lights. So she pulled off the road, and the other car pulled over with her, and this man approached the car and told her that her right wheel was wobbling and offered to tighten it. After he did, he drove off, and then she pulled away, and immediately the wheel came off. So he comes back and offers to drive her to the nearest gas station, at which point I would have been like, no, you. You messed with my wheel, and it came off. Like, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
I guess, being a woman on her own with her children, she didn't really have especially in the 70s when there were no cell phones.
I guess, people were a little more trusting, I think, too, back then.
Yeah, and, she didn't really have any other options.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was either that or... he drove around for 90 minutes, just like going back and forth on these back roads, kept passing gas stations and service stations, wasn't stopping. And every time that she asked him, hey, why aren't we stopping there? He would just change the subject. Well, she started feeling uneasy, as one might.
Right.
Being in a car with someone for an hour and a half who's supposed to be trying to help you. And when he stopped at an intersection, she jumped out and with her kid and hid in a field. And he searched for her with his flashlight for a while, but couldn't find her, so he drove away. So then she hitched a ride to the police station where she saw, while she was giving her report, she saw a sketch of Stein's killer. And she was like, that's the guy that offered to help me. More letters throughout 1970 where he took credit for certain killings. There was a bombing somewhere in California. I can't remember where. But he was like, I didn't do that. But he took credit for other killings. He threatened to blow people up. There was one letter where he sent in a cryptogram that supposedly had buried a bomb somewhere that was set to go off sometime in the fall. And the whole thing was, if you can decode this cryptogram, you'll be able to find out where it's at. Well, it never got decoded, but there was never a bomb that went off. He always signed his letters with that cross circle symbol. And then it would be like the cross circle symbol and then the number of people that he had supposedly killed or attacked. And then he would put like police department 0. Like, so he's like really taunting.
Jeez, yeah.
September 6th in 1970, Donna Lass, who was a nurse at the Sahara Tahoe Hotel and Casino, she treated her last patient at about 20 to 2, and then 2 o'clock in the morning. She finished her shift. And later that day, her boss and landlord both got calls from a man claiming that she had to leave the state for a family emergency, which was not true. Like, they investigated that. None of her family lived out of state. But she was never seen or heard from again. And there's no definitive evidence that this was the Zodiac. But on March 22nd, 1971, a postcard was sent to the Chronicle that claimed responsibility for her disappearance. And it had the same, the same symbol. But I think at this point, that symbol had been made public knowledge, so anybody could have used it.
Sure.
Which to me seems like just a poor idea, like telling people that, because, like telling the public that, because now anybody can send in something signed with that. Whereas if the public doesn't know that that's how he's signing his letters, then the ones that have that symbol you're going to know are from that guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's almost would be a better idea to release like a fake or slightly altered symbol, to try to like maybe even grab people who would try to fake that and talk to them about why.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's very interesting, the level of brazenness and the taunting from the Zodiac Killer. That's
yeah. This dude, like he really wanted to be caught, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, after that postcard was sent, he was silent for 3 years. And then all of a sudden, the Chronicle received a letter from the Zodiac postmarked January 29th, 1974, that was really weird. Like, it didn't claim any more killings or anything, but it praised The Exorcist as, quote, the best satirical comedy that I have ever seen. Which, this guy is f***ing the head.
Yeah. No doubt about that, for sure.
But this one also had an unusual symbol that is yet to be explained by researchers. Like, it was signed with a different symbol, and nobody seems to understand what it was. And then there have been other letters received all throughout the years, but these were all discredited due to like lack of details, or the handwriting was different, or whatever. The case was marked inactive by SFPD in April 2004 because they just like paperwork kept piling up, and it had been so long that they just kind of let it go. But then 3 years later, it was reopened, and in May of 2018, it was announced that they were going to try a new method of like collecting DNA to collect samples from the stamps that were used on the letters. And the chief of police said that they expected, within a few weeks to have the results. But as of December 2019, there have been, we haven't heard anything about it. So
that's interesting. That's very suspicious.
Yeah. So that's kind of the end of that. And let me get your further.
I'm interested why it was never kicked up to a higher agency. Like, why did it just stay with the SFPD? Seemed to be such a high profile case.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't come across anything in that. Like, I kind of wondered that too, but I never came across anything that was like, yeah, the FBI just didn't want it, or whatever.
Perhaps the results of that DNA or new forensics was inconclusive, but to not announce it almost gives credence back to that conspiracy that maybe the dispatcher was in on it and trying to throw it off. But that does seem completely far-fetched.
Yeah, I don't know. We've covered stuff on this podcast where it's like Like we covered the JFK killing. Oh my God, dude. If you ever have, an entire day to just go down a rabbit hole, it's a hell of a rabbit hole.
Sure.
But, this one, there wasn't a whole lot to suggest that, like, maybe there was more than one killer or, maybe he was working with somebody else. And actually, as to your thing about, not being kicked up the chain, the first profile of a serial killer wasn't put out wasn't developed until, the mid-1970s or something? So maybe that's why.
Yeah, it's possible there was no such agency.
Yeah. There've been a lot of suspects.
But none more definitive than anyone else.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was reading through some of these, and like the big one that there seems to be a lot of information about is an Arthur Leigh Allen. A dude named Robert Graysmith wrote in his book Zodiac, said that he was a potential suspect based on circumstantial evidence, but he's been interviewed by the police in the early days, and they couldn't really pin anything on him. So yeah, honestly, there's no. This is truly an unsolved mystery. Like nobody knows who this dude is.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But that stops today. That ends here.
Okay.
Because that's what we do. We solve mysteries.
Sure.
We take mysteries that are unsolved and we solve them. And occasionally we'll take a mystery that has been solved and we unsolve it.
Oh.
I don't know what I'm talking about. That's not. We don't do that here. So yeah, I guess. What are your thoughts? What are you cooking up? What do you think? Who do you think maybe?
Oof, man. I mean, there's the police angle to me seems suspicious. I don't want to suggest maybe an officer, maybe a former, but I don't know. And I feel like then if it was an officer, someone would probably be a little smarter, a little less brazen. Someone that kind of just had a bloodlust for some reason. Interesting.
So here's kind of theory that I've been working on since I started researching this. And I know the listeners at home are going to say, oh, that's bullshit. There's no way. I think that Killer was actually the first guy that survived.
Interesting.
Let me tell you why.
Okay.
So I think, and it is actually bullshit, but I have a PhD in this.
Right. I won't question you.
So I think, yeah, please don't, or you'll be put down, as we like to say on this podcast. That's how we end every podcast. Sure. So I think Magau, what happened was he was sweet on Betty Lou Jensen, right? And so he went and killed, because remember, the second killing only happened 4 miles from the first one.
Right.
So he went and killed David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen while they were on their date because he was sweet on her, but she had rejected him. And then he got a taste for it. Well, then he's out with, what was her name? Shepherd? Like, this is already unraveling so fast because I can't even remember the names. No, Darlene Ferrin. He's out with Darlene Ferrin and, trying to get some. She spurns his advances. So he kills her. And we're not going to talk about how we know that there was a second car. There was, that second car, there was no second car. The forensics evidence was faked. I don't know. So she spurned his advances. And then afterwards, he was like, oh, crap, like they're going to know it was me. So he shot himself and then described this 26 to 30-year-old man as being the assailant. And now he's got a taste for it, right? So the next killings, remember, again, it was the man who survived and the woman. Like, now he's got it in his head that all women are terrible because he's been spurned twice. Right. I can't even keep it together while I'm talking about this. And so he stabbed her more because, yeah. Like I think that's what happened.
I mean, it's definitely not the craziest thing that would happen, other than the faked forensic evidence. But I mean, could he have possibly moved his own car, and maybe they just didn't look into how much they matched?
I think you're spot on.
I would say so. I mean, it's the 1970s or 1960s, if I'm not mistaken. The cops aren't that keen yet.
Yeah, there's no forensic evidence.
Right.
Like as John Mulaney once said in a comedy special, you know, like, they didn't have forensic evidence back there. You know, like, Chief, I found a pool of the killer's blood. Gross. Mop it up. No, back to my hunch. Like,
No, yeah, it seemed to be a lot easier back then if you wanted to get away with something like that. But that crime especially, the Zodiac Killer story especially, seems so brazen, I guess is the best word still, is just out there.
yeah. And, you know, the reason that he kept taunting the police is that over time, Magyar developed a conscience and couldn't live with what he had done, but he couldn't stop. He was so thirsty for murder that he just kept going, but he couldn't stop. And he was like, I want to be caught. I have to, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about.
I mean, there's something to that, though. You would want to confess to this something. I mean, especially if it's something new to you. Like, if you got a taste for it, but then you started really thinking about how distressful it is to your own personal being, as well as the people you're killing.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yep, you said it. Yeah, that went better than I thought it would. Like, when I started, you know, giving, not my theory, the solution, I thought you were going to turn it down.
No.
I really did.
No, I think it makes the most sense given the evidence we have.
Yeah, it's clearly the first guy who survived because, you know, he survived because he was the one doing the killing.
And taking a vindictive approach towards women after being spurned. Absolutely. It fits a pattern for sure.
Well, do you have any other thoughts on this?
No, I think that's a pretty good wrap up. I maybe he was even, you know, jealous of couples in a sense, you know, if he couldn't get his own relationship like that, it's possible he was feeling jealous, but that doesn't quite explain why he would leave the men alive. Well,
and you know, and I was thinking about that. I think what happened is that Mr. Magyar, perhaps he was underwhelming in the pants department.
Sure.
And maybe that's why he killed, what was her name? Darlene Farron, because she made fun of it. And he left the other guy alive because, you know, as he's stabbing him, the guy's like, no, don't kill me. I have a small penis.
Right. Okay. Sure. No,
they've
connected.
He gets 6 stabs. He gets 6 stabs in. The guy's like, I have a small penis. Please don't kill me. So he's like, oh, me too, man. And he's like, I hope you don't die. And then he's like, how dare you make fun of his small penis? And like starts stabbing the girl.
Sure.
But the whole time she's like, I didn't say anything about his penis. I've never even seen it. He's like, fuck you, whore. You're a liar. Oh my God. Yeah, I think we got it.
Yeah, no.
There it is.
I think that's it.
All right. Well, listeners, you heard it here first. We have officially solved the case of who is the Zodiac Killer. I think that wraps this one up. Is there anything, Raj, is there anything you're working on? Anything you want to plug real quick before we do the outro?
No, I don't have anything specific. You know, I'm an actor, so anyone who comes by and checks out the channel, you want to work with me, that's all good. Just youtube.com/RajJawa. Googling also works, or rjawa.com is my website. I got my reels there, sketches, also doing some video game live streaming. So, I try to stay busy. If you want to work with me, hit me up.
All right. Sounds good. As usual, guys, if you want to support the podcast, right now the best way to do that is just to, you know, by word of mouth, keep listening, tell everybody you know to listen, and also, you know, rate and review us on, you know, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, wherever you want. Give us those 5 stars, leave us a review. And then you can also find us on Facebook at Unsolved Mysteries Solved, or on Twitter, which I recently, in my infinite stupidity, realized that I could change the handle to something better. So the handle for the Twitter has changed. It is now at UMS_podcast, which sounds better than Solved Podcast. So you can find us on Twitter there, or if you want to send in a suggestion for an unsolved mystery you want us to solve on the podcast, or if you want to send us a death threat, or tell us how good we're doing, whatever you want to do, you can do that with an email to mysteriessolvedpodcast, all one word, @gmail.com. And, you know, I think that's it. So I guess we are going to get out of here. And in the meantime, as we always say, don't question us or you will be put down. So, I'd like to thank Raj for being here today, and thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks very much, Chad.
Are you a fan of film, animation, true stories sometimes based off nothing more than hearsay and faulty human memory? Then hi, I'm Joss, from Off the Cutting Room Floor, a bite-sized film history podcast. In Off the Cutting Room Floor, I serve as your humble armchair expert and tell you some of cinema's most fascinating behind-the-scenes stories and legends. Featuring a cast of podcasters, Season 1 takes a close look at the development of the cult-hit musical, Little Shop of Horrors. Off the Cutting Room Floor, a bite-sized film history podcast, can be found on social at OTCR Room Pod, and Season 1, Little Shop of Horrors, can be found on your podcatcher of choice. Music is Always Slept So Soundly by Cersei.